My name is Lee Walters. I'm the president of Excalibur Private Investigation. I'm also a retired FBI agent. Spent almost 25 years as an agent with the FBI and have been in the private investigation industry for about 12 and a half years since. I wasn't like, a kid who basically thought, hey, I want to get in the FBI one day. Long story short, when I graduated college, I was in sales with a food company, actually, a Fortune 100 food company in Atlanta. And having been a college athlete, I was looking for an outlet to, continue to compete. So I got on a couple of softball teams in Atlanta. One of the teams I was on, I was the only non-law enforcement person on that team. And I would hear some of the stories that my teammates would have, and I'm like, that's something I should look into. And that's what I did. Started looking into it, figure out which agency I might want to apply to. Applied, and then about a year later was getting sent to the academy at Quantico. Through just research, I knew I didn't want to. Nothing against local cops because I've worked with a bunch of them, but I didn't want to be a police officer just writing tickets and responding to things. I wanted something that was a little more investigative in nature, and I didn't want to wait to be a detective. Like, you have to, in the police force, you have to move up to become a detective. So doing research on the different federal agencies, and there's a bunch, I decided that the FBI probably was the best fit for me. Never really thinking I would get in, quite honestly, because it's not easy to. I think when I got in, they had, I think the figure was 1,000 applicants for every job that they actually posted. So timing is everything. And this will go back a long ways. But at the time that I was applying is when there was a savings and loan crisis throughout the country. A lot of fraud, a lot of savings and loans, especially in Texas, where there was a lot of fraudulent activity and some of the loan procedures and just a lot of things. So the FBI got additional funds to hire agents who had a business background. That's my degree, is in business. So my timing just worked out. They needed somebody with business background at the time that I was looking to get in. So I started out, because they hired me with a business background, working what's known as white collar crime. I worked a lot of bank fraud in Arkansas, where I was assigned. I worked a lot of investment schemes, pretty much anything that had to do with stealing money with a pen, is the way I like to refer to it. I did that. I got transferred to Chicago after about 6 years. When I was in Chicago, I was on a public corruption squad, so I ended up doing primarily for police corruption in the city of Chicago. I did that for 4 years, had a long-term undercover operation that I ran. And then after that, I went out to a surveillance squad for a few years and then became what's known as a tech agent. So TTA is a technically trained agent. So you get trained on how to implement all the different technologies that are available to use in a case, like hidden cameras, hidden microphones, wiretaps, tracking devices, or that's just a few things. But any kind of technology that an agent can use on a case, which I had used on my undercover case, I was trained in. And then that was the rest of my career. I went back to Little Rock for a few years, and then went up to near Quantico, Virginia, for my last 5.5 years or so, just doing technical stuff. Yeah, so in the police corruption case, there's just a lot of things that happen that you can't plan for. Every operation where you're targeting a subject and you're trying to gather evidence of corruption, you try to plan things out, but a lot of times things change. And I actually had an undercover Chicago police internal affairs officer that worked with me on the case, and he was my primary undercover officer. And there was one operation we had where I need to back up. He was portraying himself as a high-level drug dealer, basically. He wore all the clothes that we provided, fancy cars, lots of money. One operation we had where we knew the police were going to probably approach him, to maybe take his money, probably take his money. We never put real drugs on him because we couldn't let that stuff walk on the street. But we didn't anticipate that they would actually take him into the station. And prior to that operation, we had a discussion between myself, the undercover, a few of the other officers assigned to the case. Like, should we put a wire on our undercover this time? We hadn't in the past. He'd had a lot of communication with corrupt police officers, basically, that we didn't capture on a wire because we just didn't feel comfortable putting a wire on him, But they never did check him. So, this was about 6 months into the operation, and we thought, hey, let's go ahead and put a wire on him. And at the very last minute, we decided not to. And lo and behold, they approached him, took him into the police station, put him in a holding cell, and made him strip down. So if we had done what we were thinking about doing with that wire, we'd have been done with that case. Because he would have been discovered. So little things like that, because we kept going on for another year and a half after that operation. So things never work out exactly like you think they're going to. And sometimes you have to get a little lucky. The undercover case that I ran, which, involved targeting corrupt police officers, by the very nature was extremely dangerous because everybody that we were going up against was armed, and they had badges. Those kind of cases are extremely dangerous. Matter of fact, my main undercover, he received the highest award the FBI can give out for bravery, basically, at the end of that investigation. So other cases, you may be undercover as a broker, something like that, maybe not as dangerous. So it really depends on the type of case that you're working. So they actually send you to training classes back at Quantico. There's a whole technical apparatus back there, training apparatus, where you go back and you start out with a 2-week class, and you go back periodically for training on other technologies. And then you do about a year to a year and a half OJT, where you're working with a TTA, a technically trained agent, on cases that they're assigned to, and they work with you on cases that you're assigned to, and implementing different technologies. So a lot of that is the training. You got to have an aptitude for it. If you're not technically savvy, it's probably not the position for you in the bureau. But if you like technologies and you're one of those people that always tries to figure out what's the latest and the greatest, then it's a good fit. And basically, once you're a TTA, you're assigned to what's known as a tech squad. And as agents have cases where they need technology, they'll put in a request. Kind of like I did when I had the undercover operation. There were times when I would put a request into the tech squad saying, "Hey, I've got this car that is going to be involved in an operation. I need it wired up for sound and video." And a team of tech agents, usually 2 or 3, would come out, get the car all situated, with the technologies that I was looking for. And then when I became a tech agent, then I provided those same services to agents that were working cases. Really, the thing that shocked me the most is growing up, I had always had a high regard for, people in professional positions, doctors, bankers, investment people, those kind of things. Never thinking of like anybody in those lines, those professions, where they went to school for a long time would ever do anything illegal. And then I came to find out pretty quick that, there's all types that do illegal things, so that probably shocked me more than anything, was just that pretty much there's no walk of life it's not possible that they'll never commit a crime. So